Good day to all our listeners, and I'm so happy and glad to be here with our special guest. She is the founder of ASET Yoga Center, an author, spiritual teacher, speaker, and inner life coach whose life has been devoted to exploring the deeper nature of consciousness, healing, and the divine. She was introduced to meditation at the age of 3 through an extraordinary early education. She has spent more than 4 decades integrating contemplative practice with modern science and timeless wisdom traditions. In the 1990s, she served on the staff of the Heart Math Institute, leading retreats and presenting programs on heart intelligence and resilience for business audiences, executive leadership teams, and CEOs. And she later built a successful career as a Silicon Valley executive before returning fully to her calling as a spiritual teacher. She bridges the wisdom of Jesus, yoga, neuroscience, and the perennial philosophy to help people awaken to the divine presence within, cultivate a coherent heart, and live with greater love, purpose, and inner freedom. Without further ado, I would like to welcome our guest, Miss Regan Caruthers. Did I pronounce
It's
it
okay.
correctly? Oh my.
Yeah, it's all right. It's Regan Carruthers. My middle name is O'Connor, so
Connor.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Regan.
it's a lot of names. So anyway, nice to be here with you. So thank
Yeah,
you.
same
Yeah.
here. It's an honor to have you here. What I mentioned a while ago, we would love to hear your story. So, can you tell us something about yourself that brought you to where you are right now?
Sure. So it began in 1967. So
Mm.
I've been at this life a while. Yeah, I mean, I began intensely wanted. My parents went to extraordinary means to conceive me, and my mother would later say that I was the only one strong enough to make it. And she was probably right. So while there were some really extraordinary elements of my childhood, namely the school that I attended, the rest of it was pretty complex. My mother struggled basically regulating herself. So that showed up as manic depression, though frankly, I don't believe in the diagnosis, but that's for another podcast. And I just have always been a seeker. The inner life, contemplative practice was like coming home for me as a kid. Can't really explain it, but felt very familiar being in the quiet and connecting to the felt sense of this energy that we call God. And sadly, God is a triggering word for a lot of people. But it was what I was exposed to as a child. Meditation. We did Tai Chi every day, led by a woman from China who was a master of the practice. We sang devotional songs all about personal empowerment. So what I would say to your listeners is and thankfully the program I received, at least at my elementary school, was one personal empowerment aided by God. So that helped a lot. There was violence in my home. There was emotional intensity in my home. And I spent most of my young life seeking safety. And that looked like sleepovers, when you're young and your home isn't safe. The smartest thing you can do is be popular among your peers and get invited to be somewhere else. So frankly, that's something I really prioritized. I was young. Life has a way of bringing you all sorts of different directions, but I found in my own life, I always returned back to myself and to the God that I've had the profound experience of knowing. So when I was a little girl, like my mother, there was a lot that I sensed. I saw things that other people didn't seem to be able to see. I heard things like I could hear somebody's inner thoughts. You're 8 years old. You don't really want to have that kind of access to somebody's internal world. And it was just more than I could deal with. And so I screamed out loud at the age of 9 for it to all stop. And the veil came down and it didn't come back off until 27. So I spent 9 to 27, just trying to figure out what it meant to be me in this world, which, if you look at it kind of in a third person sort of way and you just look at it, I mean, it just seems like a real mess. Anyway, my spiritual awakening at 27 brought me back to that relationship with God. And it changed my path and changed me fundamentally. And so ever since then, and that was over 30 years ago, I think I've been in the process of not only sharing what I know and helping others on their path, but integrating it all, right? In a way that, makes sense. I often wonder, we use the word priestess. I don't like labels, but what does it mean to be a priestess in this culture at this time?
Mm-hmm. So was that at the age of 27 when you discovered that, hey, this is what I'm supposed to do now? I've found myself, and you were no longer bothered by the thoughts that was distracting you or giving you a lot of
Well, I mean, it's still, it shows up differently now on the precipice of 60, but I am very sensitive, certainly.
So this is another another sense.
Yeah. To me, it's more about learning how to turn it on and off and up and down, right? For lack of a better word, a self-mastery component to all of this. And to me, I find that in my devotion to be quiet and to connect to the felt sense of God and to try to get out of the way, right? Like that idea that spiritual awakening, if you ever have one, is a difficult thing. It is not all unicorns and rainbows. When you wake up, yes, you have the felt sense of a quality of love that you can't explain, right? I can't explain what God's love feels like.
Yes.
Right? I can try to use words to explain it, but it doesn't really work. And so that devotion kind of keeps me going. It's not as if life is always easeful, it just isn't. And I just keep returning. Mm-hmm. And in that sacred return, you can continue to learn about yourself and you continue to learn how to hold that quality of love for another, no matter what they're doing, right? I mean, that's what all the master teachers have taught, the same thing. That's why I love talking about the perennial philosophy, that there is this sacred thread through all the wisdom traditions, through all these ascended masters, these master teachers. They all speak about the efficacy of love.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. So you weave together very different traditions, yoga, neuroscience, and perennial philosophy.
Yes.
How do you see these seemingly disparate paths pointing toward the same fundamental truth?
Yeah, they all point to love.
Okay.
But a love that is impersonal, right? Not the sticky kind that humans tend to get involved in.
The romantic love.
Yeah, it's a love with like a capital L. It's completely impersonal, yet incredibly intimate. So that's confusing to say. When you're connected into that field, think of it just as a dimension of your awareness. There's information there, right? We can learn things from that place. For me, for whatever reason, my guidance from God is auditory. Like I hear a voice. It's a male voice that has been, bossing me around.
And that's the inner
Since,
that's the inner voice we're talking about, the intuition, because it's really connected with God.
Yeah, I mean, it's that point of view, right? It's that. And for whatever reason, I can't explain why. I think my early education has something to do with it. I just have always been in relationship with that voice. Certainly, I'm much closer to that voice than I was, right? But even when I was a kid, it directed me, and I would experience, when I listened to what it said, pretty magical, transformative things would happen as a result. And when I didn't, things were not as easy. So we're all built the same, right? We're all built the same. what I think is different between people typically is what's in the way of that knowing, right? Like you don't have to earn this.
Yeah. You are this.
And there is most likely layers of conditioning, layers of trauma, layers of belief, layers of stuff in the way of that direct relationship. And so the way I view my work is just to hold people in such a way that they begin to remember. It's not something I say, right? It's not what I teach. Ideally, I think it comes from embodiment, right? To embody a quality of love and hold that for another. And what I try to do in my coaching is to help people understand first how to connect to the love of God and then how to bring that energy into themselves to heal all the traumatized aspects of themselves, right? Like
later on, spread that to others as well in terms of.
well, eventually, eventually, but the focus really needs to be on doing it for you. You can't really hold that. You can't hold it for anyone unless you can hold it first for yourself. So I call that loving witness, like how to connect to the love of God and bring that energy in to acknowledge and love all the parts of you, particularly the parts you don't like, the parts that, are hidden away that you don't want to look at. Those are the parts that probably are running your show.
Yeah.
And sometimes I say to somebody, hey, do you want your traumatized 7-year-old making your adult decisions for you? Probably not.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Of course not.
Yeah.
So what do you believe is the missing link in modern spirituality that neuroscience and ancient wisdom together can finally help us resolve? Is it the love that is missing right now? I don't know.
Well, I don't know if any of it can solve for this, but I think that the biggest challenge is lack of devotion and discipline to it, right? Everybody listening to this, you're devoted to something.
Yeah.
And that devotion typically is reflected in how you spend your time. So if your day does not include conscious communion with God, well, your life is going to reflect that in some way. It's going to reflect the lack of that relationship. Not that energy isn't there, loving you and kind of waiting for your awareness. Of course. I mean, we live in a culture that has programmed the average person to want a quick fix. Take a pill for this, take an injection for that. And to have this kind of relationship and the sovereignty that comes from it requires you to show up.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it breaks down. And I'm not sure who has an answer to that. I mean, all the wisdom traditions speak of it. In the yoga tradition, that's called tapas, one of the niyamas, which is about self-discipline. That inner fire, right? Tending to that inner fire in order to do the things that you might not feel like doing, right? Discipline is about doing the thing when you don't want to.
Yes.
Right? Motivation is like, oh, I'm motivated to do this. Discipline is like, oh, I'm not motivated and I'm going to still sit down, close my eyes and find God.
So we often talk about awakening as if it's a distant destination. So how do you help your clients recognize that the divine presence is already here rather than something they need to go and find?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's done through practice, right? So what I do, both in the teaching of the physical practice of yoga or when clients come to see me, is we can do this right now. Let's do it. So go ahead and just close your eyes for a moment. And can you notice how your body feels in the chair, right? Sensations of the body, how the body feels in the seat. You can notice here the activity of your mind, right? The thoughts that are running, trying to get your attention. So in this moment of quiet, when you can observe sensations of body and you can observe sensations of mind, you realize you're neither the observer, right? You observe the body and how it feels. You can observe the thoughts that are running. So the truth of who you are is that sacred witness, that consciousness, which in yoga we call Purusha or Shak, Shiva. When you understand that you are that sacred witness, that you're not your body, you're not even your mind, then you can become curious about, how do I tend to that relationship with that part of me? Because you may have noticed in that moment of quiet, when you're observing those things and you realize you're the observer, well, that part of you doesn't have a story. That part of you is untouched by trauma, by the human lived experience. So it is in that relationship, which is really your higher self, right? The part of you that is not your ego. It's this transcendent part of you, this sacred witness. So to me, it begins and ends there.
Well, yeah, just like in meditation, you have to really focus on yourself and then give yourself some space to do some self-reflection. So in your experience, what is the biggest barrier that keeps people from experiencing the freedom that comes from living from an awakened state?
They don't show up for it.
It's just so sad, no?
It's just whatever the collective needs, right? None of it is bad. That's another thing that's hard to understand, is this lack of duality, like truly. Doesn't mean we don't experience polarity as human beings. Of course we do. But that's not the truth. I mean, it's hard. We're distracted. We've got these supercomputers in our hands. We've got these big boxes we stare at, We consume food that isn't really food, right? Like, tend to our bodies and treat it, so there's a lot of things that make, quote unquote, the awakened state feel far away or not possible. And I understand that. But boy, you just never know. If you just get quiet, close your eyes, connect to the felt sense of love, right? The greatest love you've known, ideally the love of God or a moment in nature, some moment of profundity for you emotionally, right? That gratitude that you can feel. Words are inadequate, right? It's the felt sense of that, connecting to the feeling of that in your inner quiet, that elevates you. Right? That begins to kind of solidify within your own perceptual system the truth, which is you are that love, right? You are that sacred witness. That's the truth. Doesn't mean that all the other things aren't true too. They happened, you experience them, of course. Yet underneath it is something else. And when we can spend more time in that loving awareness, right, in that conscious communion, information, is available. So a different frequency, right? Truly like a different frequency, like dialing into a radio station called God. It's like connecting to the God station. And when you connect to the God station, you're going to hear, right? The commercials are different. Playlist is different.
More positive messages.
Yeah, the conversations are different. I've never said it quite like that, but yeah, that's what it is. Like tuning in to the God frequency on the radio.
Yeah.
And you are the antenna, right? Your spinal cord and all of the afferent nerves, like your entire energy system, is the antenna for this God station. So how you take care of your antenna, what you feed it, how much water you drink, the content you consume, right? All of that impacts your antenna.
Actually, that was my next question. It seems that you answered it already. What does inner freedom actually look like in the middle of stressful and high pressure week? How does your approach help people stay grounded?
When you learn how to tune into the God station and keep it there, you're not triggered in the same way, right? Like when we're emotionally triggered, as much as we think it's about what that person said or did or whatever, it's a call from your unhealed self. right? It's an unhealed part of you that is doing that reacting.
Yes.
And the reason we know this is if somebody else was experiencing the exact same thing, they'd have a completely different reaction, right? So your reaction is yours. And so the more time you spend connected to the God station, the less triggered you are, the less dramatic things are. You don't get emotionally entangled into a moment with someone. There's more space, right? There's more sovereignty available. And frankly, you don't really give a cuss word. You don't care what other people think.
Thank you. That's always the barrier, the roadblock. We're
You know,
afraid.
when you're in that awakened state and you have clear seeing, and it's not about popularity, right? Like who I am, what I may say, what I may hold may trigger you. Well, just know that is yours. That is not mine.
Because
Doesn't mean I
others,
don't have responsibility, right?
uh,
Doesn't mean that. And to me, the 8 limbs of yoga, I mean, as an Ashtanga teacher, like that's a really compelling framework for awakening, are the 8 limbs of yoga. And those 8 limbs are certainly completely aligned with what Yeshua taught, also known as Jesus, Krishna, Muhammad, I mean, any of the master teachers, the Buddha. Yeah, I mean,
and they all lead to one
conscious union with God. Yeah, I
thing.
mean, that's what yoga means. It means union in Sanskrit. And each limb is like a rung on a ladder. Like you need all of the rungs to ascend to that kind of awareness. And you don't hold it all the time, right? Like you're human, you're not. Yeah, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think I remembered about the different stages of awareness. The first stage is we ask ourselves, why me? And then the second is we are co-creator, or we are given the responsibility to do something. And then the next one is through me, the purpose given to us by God. The mission is they're using us as instrument through me to spread the word, spread love, and so on. And then the last one is the awakening, the enlightenment. Yeah, I've heard about and it's a good thing that we should also remember and realize where are we right now, and in what stage, no? So we could also, as what you've mentioned, ascend to the next level. So
Yeah, just tune in to the God radio station. I've never really said it this way before. I really
yes,
like what has come through today and speaking to you
uh-huh.
about it. Just tune in to God radio.
Exactly. Yeah, see, we discovered something through this. So, how has your journey of bridging this path changed the way you define purpose now?
I mean, in facing death a few years ago, yeah, just deepen my commitment to service, right? So I try to offer things every day where there's no economic barrier to receive it, right? Whether that's teaching yoga for free here at my center, or saying to my community, like, if you can't afford inner life coaching with me, but it matters to you, like you truly are committed and want to do this, then let's do it.
Wonderful.
I can get paid
Later on,
lots of ways,
yes, yes.
lots of ways.
Sometimes
And
it's not the material things.
well,
Sometimes
it's certainly it's
uh,
never that. I mean, part of what you realize is the meaning that you have is something you assign. And
yes,
that's where the freedom is too, right? Like you are, whether you're conscious of it or not, everything is your creation. And if you look about and you don't like what you see, it's not about changing those things. It's about the inner alchemy, the inner change.
mhm,
And
yes,
you do, those things don't show up anymore.
exactly. Because
Um,
the energy that you project is being transmitted to others, and they transmit it to others as well. spreading
Yep.
light. Yeah, when you
Yes.
share that light, light will spread around. They
Yes.
will follow. I agree. I agree. And that gives you meaning and more joy in life, right? When you discover your purpose, when you see that you are there to help others really be the best version of themselves. Mhm.
Yeah, I think it feels really good to be a conscious container for God radio.
So we need to have that radio station.
Yeah. Oh, I just love it so much because I think it makes it understandable somehow, or more understandable, that everything's energy, everything's frequency. We don't question how the radio works in our car or a cell phone or the internet. But I mean, all of that functions because of what we as human beings understand about frequency, right? But we don't tend in our everyday to think about that ourselves, right? That we are this electrical system broadcasting something with every beat of the heart. Right. That is the transmitter. So, yeah, we are impacting whether or not it's easier for someone to tune into God radio, right? Like if you're broadcasting a lot of incoherence, a lot of distortion, your frustration, your resentment, whatever, right? Like that creates in the field instability and sort of chaos.
Mm-hmm.
So think of it like static, like to continue to focus on this God radio thing, right? It's like, yeah. Like, are you a clear signal for God radio?
Uh-huh.
Or are you providing static and making it more difficult for yourself or anyone else around you to tune into that?
See, that's through us now.
Yes.
And I leave. That's why I stopped listening to news. It's
Oh,
full of negativity. It's full of I don't know, uh, chaos. We're living in a very chaotic world. So I agree with you. We could easily change the frequency, the channel of what we're listening. Choose something positive. There are times wherein I will just listen to because the music right now I couldn't even understand the music of this younger generation and a lot of cuss words. And what I do, I just changed it to praise and worship music.
yes, yes. I will tell you on Spotify, my
Yes.
favorite artist, her name is Shapelari. Look her up on Spotify. I mean, the most just evocative, beautiful music, elevating lyrics. It matters, right? And those stations of fear, they're designed that way. It's on purpose.
And even social media, it's the start of disagreements, hate, division, and so on. Because what does it show? It shows probably the others can afford of all those things. And what happens now to those who are looking at it? Oh, they feel envious and they feel their self-worth goes down because of those things. Why not go or choose a channel wherein it will help you grow? It will develop you as a human being and see what you can do for others as well. Discover what the gifts that was given to you by God and use them to help others. Wow, nice conversation. If it's always related to God, you know what? I'm always excited to discuss all these things. Okay, what are your goals now for the next months?
I'm writing a novel. So that same voice that, bosses me around not asked me, told me in meditation to write a book on the perennial philosophy. And at first, when I received that, I thought it was like, wanted me to write like narrative nonfiction. And I felt very intimidated. I mean, Huxley already wrote the seminal book, Perennial Philosophy. If you haven't read it, it's not an easy read, but go read it. It's already been written. And so when I got quiet again, and it said, no, like write it as fiction, like an adventure story.
Yes.
I'm like, that sounds easier and more fun. So yeah, so
More
this
interesting
female,
for the readers.
yeah, so this female protagonist, it's about, her life and the wisdom traditions that she gets exposed to through different moments in time, and what she learns, not just about the perennial philosophy, right? This singular thread, which is love, the teaching of God radio, right? And all the wisdom traditions, but also the perennial distortion, right? All those wisdom traditions also hold distortion. And the distortion they hold is fairly similar. So it's like a perennial distortion as well, which is all about suppression of the divine feminine, about an external authority needed to tune into God radio, right? That you need an institution, a church, a priest, a rabbi, like whatever. I think that's part of the distortion too. Not that church can't be a wonderful thing, and not that priests or rabbis can't be an incredible advocate for you on your path. I'm not saying that. And there's distortion in those wisdom traditions. There's trauma in how the human beings have chosen to behave. I mean, look at the Crusades or the Inquisition, to murder people because they hold a different point of view about God radio.
Yeah.
Like, how messed up is that?
Yeah.
And that still happens, right? We still fight these epic battles over who has the right definition of God radio and who has the right way for you to tune in.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just kind of ridiculous if you think about it.
Exactly.
It's like,
I'm telling you, this
like what?
This world is really, it's so messed up, and we just need to start from ourselves to, like what you're doing, spread the word of God, spread God's love through action. And I'm sure through this podcast, we will be able to. This is the God's radio.
Right. And it starts like in the yoga tradition, the first limb of yoga are the yamas, which are basically ethical guidelines, not unlike the Ten Commandments, right? All the wisdom traditions speak of this code of ethics. Like if you're dishonest, hard to be tuned in to God radio when you're making that choice, right? Like you can't do both. And so in the yoga tradition, then the second limb, the niyamas, which are ways to treat yourself. Self-discipline, tapas being one of those niyamas. Then the third is what everybody thinks yoga is, which is asana, the physical practice of yoga, these shapes that you bring your body into. But the only reason that limb exists is to make meditation, which is one of the limbs further down the road, easier to do, right? If you have a lot of stress and tension in your physical system, it makes sitting still and tuning into God radio more difficult.
Yeah.
And then pranayama, the breath, and withdrawing your senses from the external world is another limb, and your capacity for concentration to focus on staying tuned into God radio, and meditation is another limb. And all of that leads to the eighth limb of yoga, which is samadhi, which is conscious union with, to me, those 8 limbs are basically the playbook for how to tune into God radio.
Yes. And what do you think would be the major roadblock stopping you or not achieving your goal of
my book?
This novel. No, this book.
Oh, goodness. It's writing a book, because I wrote, my memoir. It's a bit of a marathon, right? And it's not unlike the discipline required to tune into God radio. Like you just have to keep showing up. And, some days I want to write, right? Like I feel that inner motivation.
Inspired, no.
Most days, not so much, right? So what would get in the way is me deciding to do something else.
The distractions.
Yeah, all the ways that I could spend an afternoon as opposed to sitting, in my yoga center writing. So just staying present in that. I mean, when I used to work in the publishing industry a long time ago, when a professor wanted to write a textbook, you could stay paralyzed if you thought about the enormity of the entire project. Right. But if you can just take a piece of it at a time, those pieces in time will then represent the whole thing. So that's what I need to stay aware of. Just keep showing up and try not to think about the entirety of it.
Yeah.
And just be like, okay, where am I in this story right now? And what needs to be shared next.
When we see and we look at the big picture, we get overwhelmed.
Yeah, sometimes.
Rather than, okay, just do baby steps, because those baby steps also lead to what we need to achieve. And that is the book, your goal.
Yeah.
So before we end, if you could leave our listeners with one shift in perspective that would help them move toward a more coherent, awakened life, what would it be?
Yeah, just get still. It really begins and ends there. And don't have a goal in that stillness for it all to be quiet, right? Like that's such an unfair expectation to have. But just be willing to sit, nice long antenna, your spine,
Mm-hmm.
and close the eyes, focus on, just noticing the body, noticing the mind, noticing the breath. Use a memory of a moment in time when you felt profound love. Perhaps it was the love of God, that love, that gratitude that words don't really work for. Connect to the feeling of that, like sincerely in your quiet. See how long you can hold the felt sense of love, of gratitude, of hope, of peace, of harmony, any of those elevated emotions. Can you embody those? Be those as you sit, knowing that the energy of this provides more health, strengthens the immune system, gives you access to your cortex, secretes hormones that are good for you, like the anti-aging hormone, DHEA, for example. And as you continue to sit in the felt sense of this, you can also know that you're broadcasting this out, right? Out of your being, you are this broadcaster of God radio. So that's what I would suggest. Give that a try. See where it takes you.
Yeah. Wow. Imagine you did not only share your story, you did not only share your knowledge, your wisdom, what you do, but we were able to practice it. And that's what I like. I love it. Thank you so much for your incredible journey with us today. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for the power of tuning in, staying tuned, being with the Lord in our radio channel, because it really helps. If the only thing that we could hold on is through God, it's God's love, and share that love.
Yeah,
So
that's how we change the world, one person at a time,
yes,
making that choice, because it
yes,
is a choice.
yes.
It is a choice. So thank you for having me
Thank
on.
you
And
so much.
people can find me on
Oh yes, by the way,
Substack.
yes.
Yeah,
How can they connect?
I write on Substack, and that's free, so they can go on Substack if they like to access people's writings that way. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I've been pretty inactive on Instagram lately, just kind of taking a break, but there's a lot of content on my grid, a lot of videos and things that I've shared. My website is another source of
So what's
information.
your website again?
Oh, it's just my name, regancaruthers.com.
Okay.
Yeah, and then my book, they can find Tragic Magic on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, either as a paperback or an ebook.
Wonderful. Okay. Again, thank you so much for this wonderful time, for the time you've shared with us. And to all our listeners, till our next episode, thank you and have a blessed day to all.
Thank you,
Bye.
Cynthia. Bye.
Thank you.